Okay, we are live on air at 12:05 p.m. Um, and I'm gonna bring up the topic I wanted to discuss, which is a Chavas Das and Yoreh Simon Kuf Yud uh, on the Beis Hasafik, which is the Chavas Das's perush on the Chavas Sveika of the and it is in Simchat and Chaf. I said that there's a link on the YouTube page to the page in Hebrew books where the Chavas can be found, and there is also a on the my blog there is a copy of the Chavas actually posted there as well, which I think you might be able to large enough to actually read it if you try. In the meantime, I have it here on my screen, and I'm going to. The reason why we're doing this today is because I was astonished by this Chavas. I learned it yesterday. I have a chavrusa of Shalom Agerstein with which I learn the Shach, the Kodesh Fake Sveko, once a week or so, and we're up to Sivkot and Chaf. And Sivkot and Chaf is if you take a look here, the Chavas he summarizes the Shach in the first line. He writes, "B'safik iser d'Rabbanan sheyesh l'cheskas iser, ochiach hashas de'aser." In the B'safik iser d'Rabbanan, where there is a cheskas iser, the Shach proves that it's aser. Now, I want to make this clear. It's not pshat. Then when you have a suffix in the Rabbanan, the Chazaka tells you can't be made killed, even though normally suffix is upon the kula. It's the other way around. Where there is a Chazaka, there is no suffix. Whereas the whole concept of Chazaka, the Torah said, is if you have a suffix, use the Chazaka, and that determines that there no longer is something to be mistopic about. So therefore, it's not the pshat that the suffix Rabbanan is eliminated by the Chazaka. The suffix, the suffix itself is no longer applicable in a makom where we say Chazaka. So therefore, once you have a cheskas iser, even the Rabbanan, certainly by the Raisa, but even by the Rabbanan, it means that there's no more suffix. There's nothing to talk about. The suffix the Rabbanan Kula can't start because the Torah said zil b'sar chazaka. You have to follow the chazaka, and that is, of course, what you will follow. Okay, now the Keri'as brings down here that the Keri'as, which is Rabbi Yoreh and so I should mention the Chavas Das, is the author of the Nesivos HaMishpat. That's what he's more famous for. Rabbi Yaakov Lisa of Lisa Loberbaum was his last name, and Rabbi Yoreh wrote the Keri'as, who was a couple generations earlier than Nesivos or the Chavas Das, depending who you want to call him. And the Keri'as says Keri'as he wrote to the mutter. He wanted to say that we still do something to say something that Lakula, even by a cheskas iser. The aim the aim says whatever the Keri'as is saying, it's not enough to contradict the Shas. And he goes to a couple of the cases here, and I'm going to skip the first case just to tell you about Vlad Tuma, although there is a big chiddush in this case as well, which means I can't fully skip it, but you got the point. Which is that there's a big chiddush because he talks about here the question of Vlad Hatuma. Now, according to Yerushalmi, all Vlad Hatumas are the Rabbanan of themselves. And if you have a suffix in a Vlad Hatuma, it'd be a suffix to Rabbanan, right? And but he speaks about, however, a new concept, which I never saw before applied to Isam Heter, that I recall. Now, there's a concept of Chad Rabbanan and Trade Rabbanan. Chad Rabbanan and Trade Rabbanan is not the same thing as a one suffix and two suffixes. Rather, the case that comes up is in my Bar Mitzvah Drasha. My Bar Mitzvah Drasha is about Kiddush on Friday night. And the question is if a daven, a gadol who davened. So they both have the Rabbanan in Kiddush. But the Katan is a trade Rabbanan. The Katan is chayiv in the Rabbanan of Kiddush HaYoim, after assuming that Kiddush, the rights of Yotzei Shmud davening. Now you chayiv the Rabbanan in Kiddush HaYoim of the Kiddush of Al Yayin. But in that of itself, a Katan is chayiv Shum Chinuch. There's no sfekas here. He's a trade Rabbanan, a double chiyuv Rabbanan. He's a chiyuv Rabbanan in Kiddush, and is a chiyuv on because of chinuch. Okay, so that is a case in which we're not applying for sveikas, we're just applying it to a case of chiyuvim to be motzi people mitzvahs, right? So here the Chavas Das says a very big chiddush, and he says that by Vlad, if you take a look here in the one on HebrewBooks.org, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down, he brings down Mishnah Melech. Well, actually, it's not the Mishnah Melech. He said this is him himself speaking. But Tam de Vlad Tuma de Rabbanon. He's going to bow. Not all Vlad Tumas de Rabbanon, but some Vlad Tumas de Rabbanon. Vlad de Rabbanon, he could trade the Rabbanon. Degama Tuma de Rabbanon, the Tuma de Rabbanon. Degama Adam Eina Makabel Tuma. If you don't be Vlad Tuma, the Raisa Rak Mid Rabbanon. The Vlad Tuma itself is the Raisa, and that a person's Makabel Tuma or Vlad Tuma, even if the Vlad Tuma is the Raisa, is in of itself the Rabbanon. So he's a double the Rabbanon, right? Mashkei Ba'ava Tuma the Rabbanon, where it would be a Chad the Rabbanon. Okay, so whatever the case is, there is a case in which the crazy place you wanted to say it's a raya to that by Safik the Rabbanon, you still say, even though it's a chesed against Isser, you still say Safik the Ramakula, says the Shach. No, it's only applied, the Chavas Das, it only applies in the case of a trade Rabbanon, which is anyway a lighter Rabbanon, not by a Chad Rabbanon. Fascinating thing. Again, it's not because it's fake, it's because of the double the Rabbanon situation. It's a Vlad Tuma the Rabbanon, and a person becomes Talmud with a Vlad Tuma the Rabbanon. Again, you have to be careful what I'm saying. The Vlad Tuma the Rabbanon, and a person only becomes Talmud a Vlad Hatuma because the rabbi said so, not be the Raisa. So therefore, in a trade Rabbanon says the Sivas that you can say Safik the Rabbanon Kula, even if it is a there's a cheskas issue involved. Okay, that is of itself a chiddush in this Chavas Das. It is a concept of Chad Rabbanon, trade Rabbanon in terms of sveikus. That by a trade Rabbanon we're going to be more meko than we are by a Chad Rabbanon. Very big chiddush. Okay, but that's not the primary one I want to speak about. But not yet there where I want to speak about it. He says here by the big dot in the middle of the line here. I call it the Mishum to be able to kill our Beis and Mishar speak the Rabbanon. The Shas the Dama Suffolk Erev Vatum the Rabbanon. Very, very powerful statement by the Chavas Das. Chavas Das is saying a Suffolk the Rabbanon Lakula as levels. There's some sort of Rabbanon Lakula which are which are kind of bumpy, and some which are smooth, some which you can skate on. So so one of them he says the Suffolk Erev Lakula. I think Suffolk Abelus Lakula probably the same thing. I had many years ago when I was in Shalvin, Rabbi Schlesinger, the Rosh Yeshiva, said over that he once fired a Rebbe in the Yeshiva Ketana. It was before Shalvin at a high school, at Yeshiva Ketana, where they learned Limudei Kodesh only without Limudei Chol. And he had to fire a Rebbe. And I'm sure there are other issues, but the issue which he brought up with us, and which he said he asked Shlomo Zalman about, was there was a Rebbe in the Yeshiva Ketana who was teaching that there's no chiluk in severity between the prohibition of tying, I'm a lefty, so I always get this mixed up, of tying your left shoe before your right shoe, and the issur of opacholov, eating chicken cooked in milk. And Shlomo Zalman, according to Rabbi Schlesinger, said that he could fire the Rebbe. Now, the idea is that to say that there's no severity in hierarchy, the Rabbanans is incorrect. There are the Rabbanans which are more chomer and Rabbanans which are less chomer. Something which is Ikar D'Oraisa, for example. It's certainly going to be more common to say which is not Ikar D'Oraisa, which has a source in Torah versus something which is that does not. But the point which we're making here is that the case of Eruv, the case of Avelus, I love the Remeko B'Eruv, I love the Remeko B'Avel. Those are not just concepts of Safik D'Rabbanan Kulas, says the Chavas Das. Those are concepts of lesser D'Rabbanans, which are similar to a trade Rabbanon, and therefore it's much more easy to be Meko, and therefore you may Meko against this Cheskas Issur. Now, this is important because in Erev Lamai, for example, we have very, very tenuous Tariq we rely on in certain matters. For example, in terms of Keri'as Shus, there are a lot of difficulties in the Kulas which we use, but However, the Meko Be'ervin means that there is you can be, since it's Durabonan, but not just because it's Durabonan. There's a Hey Momer effect, which means that because the nature of Erevin and Chazal's attitude towards Erevin, you can be Meko in ways which seem not to be available in other Suffolk Durabonan. So this is a very big Kiddush of the Chavas Das, which is that there's gradations in the Rabbanans. Okay, next. The Gamasha crazy replacey. Gamasha Tama crazy replacey. Magi Mishnah Be'er B'Shuma. Actually, I don't want to see this. I'm going to skip this. Now down to Gam Mashahevi Raya, which is one. Where you see the dot in the middle of the line, where it says Gam Masha Tama Crazy Placey, the end of the line, coverage above, Crazy Placey. So you go below that 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down at the end of the line. Again, I'm using the copy from HebrewBooks.org. Gam Meshi Hevi Raya Michot Esu Eno Nita Bebein Hashmoshes the Shvi. You don't blow a shake Esro on Ben Hashmoshes of, let's say you forgot all of Hoshana Rabbah to shake Esro. So it comes Ben Hashmoshes of the Shmini Atzeres, and you're in Chutz La'aretz, and therefore Shmini Atzeres is still a suffix. The Chutzuk is suffix Shmini Atzeres, and you want to shake Lulav, be suffix. Right? This is Rabbanah to shake Lulav. You want to shake Lulav, be suffix. Right? So so it says there that you don't shake Lulav, be suffix, says the Ran. Because around time we should not be suffix Rabbanah. After his Chazik Bar Chiyuva, even though he has a Cheskas Chiyuv. So with the Cheskas is, in other words, he was Mechuyev to shake Lulav that day. So Mechuyev brought me by from before the from before you have to begin. So he says here, it was my place. So here we see the suffix, the Rabbanon is doicher, the cheskas chiyuv, not like the shach. The cheskas, according to shach, contains the crazy placey. Right? We should have to actually shake lulav because the cheskas chiyuv should be machriya, should outweigh the suffix Rabbanon ben Hashmoshes. So he says here, the Ein Misham Raya Cloud. There's no raya for that at all. Doesn't matter the timer. Came to Yasub Issa Drabanan. Since taking lulav on Yontif is Issa Drabanan because it's muktzah. So therefore, Lo Dachir Issa Drabanan became it. The Cheskas Chiyuv might be able to take away a suffix of a suffix whether you're chayav or not, but we'll tell you even a suffix take it anyway because the cheskas chiyuv, but not in a case where the suffix is the rabbanon involved of muktzah. The suffix is the rabbanon because the shmini atzeres and if it's ben hashmoshes, it's a suffix shmini. But if it's shmini, so then it's a suffix muktzah. So therefore, if it's a suffix muktzah, so therefore, sorry, my camera adjustment here. So therefore, if it's a suffix muktzah, you can't take the lulav at that time. So says the Chavas Das, sorry. I had time to come to the Rabbanon. Lo the Issa the Rabbanon become Sveika. You know, the Issa the Rabbanon of Tiltul Muktzah doesn't fall out because of the suffix whether you fulfill the mitzvah or not. Much custom of Rashba Baran, but I'm much in and deal a little bit shmini, we suffix, we time to the chin until to the Rabbanon, me come Sveika. I ain't sure. So this is because we don't push away the prohibition of muktzah until to the Rabbanon, in the case of the suffix chiyuv of shvi suffix shmini. Now, Teda, you should know this is true, says the Chavas Das. We're not going to say this. You certainly would have to shake the lulav at that point without a bracha. The Cheskas Kib will tell you you would have to shake the lulav. Bein hashmoshes of shvi suffix shmi. because the suffix Rabbanan is overruled by the Cheskas Chiyuv, and you would take it without a bracha because it's a suffix brachas is long a brachas which you're not sure about, and Kamoim the stopic b'shayim not the lulav, just like if you're not sure on any other day of sukkahs if you took a lulav or not, pick up lulav and make a bracha or make the and shake without a bracha. Ukamol b'misupak b'sfira soimer. The Sphira. Now, this is something which I didn't realize it's a double pashut probably for most people, but I actually didn't think about it till last night. This is not to be finished yet, but that if you forget Sphira one night, we're still mechayev you to one night and a day. When mechayev you to clean the Sphira, nevertheless without a bracha, it's not the pshat that okay, it's like a consolation prize. You missed the night, but you can still count without a bracha. No, you have to count without a bracha because there's a safek chiyuv here. There's a suffix, maybe I'm chayiv to count Svias Omer. And evidently, even though the Cheskas Chiyuv has a reusa, according to the opinion that you lost your count, but according to the other opinions, you have a Cheskas Chiyuv. So that in of itself would be enough to mechayiv you to continue counting. Now, here comes the Krish. V'after b'safik kara Shma. You don't read the Shema. If you forgot, if you said Shema or not. Ain't no choser v'koreh. You don't repeat it. The man like Keri'as Rabbanan bebrachos chafaf omes. You don't repeat Keri'as Shema. Keri'as Shema is only the Rabbanan. If it's the right saw, you have to repeat it because it's not saying Yoreh. But if it's the Rabbanan, you don't repeat Keri'as Shema. At least if you're Keri'as Shema, everybody agrees. I think that the Rabbanan, the Shema itself is the suffix whether it's the right or the Rabbanan. But in any event. Ein Shomu Mitam, the Keri'as Shema, Adaita Dechov, Isura Isbei. This is my Bible. Let me repeat that again. Keri'as Shema, Adaita Dechov, Isura Isbei. If you're not sure if you read Shema, and you do it again, even certainly you're sure you read Shema, and you read Shema over again with Torah Chiyuv, it's an Isser. Question what the Isser is. Shach is not telling us what the Isser is. Shach is Chavas not telling us what the Isser is. It tells us that there's an Isser. What could it possibly be? Well, it's not going to be Shem Shemayim V'Atolah, which would be your first choice, as we shall see. Again, the Keri'as Shema Adaita L'Chov Isura Isbei Kamo B'Safik Yitzpalo. We're not sure if I'm not Eino Choser Mitzpalo. Now, you don't go back to daven. Now, you can't. Because of a rush, at times after me, Spalo, all the Bechol Komayoy, person could daven the entire day, Kulo, the Torah the Dova, as an optional Kulo, come the suffix, Spalo, ain't no Chizim Spalo. They can't be Spalo again. It goes in Spalo. I have 3 lines here. The Tefillah, Adaita Dechov Isura Isbei. Listen, you can daven as much prayer in the dove as you want, but you can't daven another tefillah chayva. So it's not because of the Shem Shemayim V'Atolah, because there's many dovas you want to make in tefillah. You mean another tefillah, another tefillah. But you can't say it again b'Torah chayva as an obligation. He continues. Come besafik is come besafik is besafik also come. I'm sorry, I skipped here. After mutter Keri'as Shema kol yom b'Torah dava. Can we shkor b'Torah? You can read the entire day. You come besafik also. Even a suffix. And not just where you read Shema, you want to read again. For some reason, there's a Shema B'Torah there. No, even if you have a suffix, you're not sure if you read Shema or not. To read it B'Torah chayv is also. It's an amazing statement. You come suffix also come suffix come suffix also come suffix is power. The chain b'chol brachos. That died in the dava mutar levarech l'haydos. If you want to make it a dava, you're allowed to make a bracha on al da. Afilu bas korash shmo yizbalach. Even the mention Shem Hashem. K'moshe mutar b'yurches brachos. Just like it's permitted during the Shmona Esrei. Yispalam medora there's the dava. Not during. To daven Shmona Esrei as a tefillah as the dava. Vadaita the chav also. But on the other hand, to do it as an obligation, it's also afilu below as kara shmoi, even without mentioning Shem Shemayim. It was like to do with Shem Hashem, yes or no. If you daven an tefillah as a chayiv, shalom hamakom chayiv, whether you mention Shem Shemayim or not, it's also. If you want to daven as an adava, b'bakasha, as many times as you want. But it's a chayiv or not. And if it's not finished yet, the Chavas last. Die brings it right. Don't say if you make a bracha on bread, the Alma would basically saying the bracha in Aramaic, and there's no isser of there's the eight according to many post communications where you're not sure if you made a bracha or not. You make a bracha in this nusach of Brichach Mona Malka Mora, and you'll say the bracha. So that is a lashon which works for bracha, even though it doesn't have Shem Shemayim in it. It's just they're in Aramaic, non-Hebrew. So yotza uv'safik asa barach afilu b'chai gavno. Stas's opinion is that you're not allowed to use this as an eight in the case of safik, even though I mentioned Shem Shemayim. So obviously the Chavas Stas is coming with an Isser Bal Tosef here, that there's a prohibition of being moisif even on a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. If you're doing it because you're misupuk, if you get to the mitzvah or not, an Isser Bal Tosef. There's an Isser Bal Tosef on a suffix. Now, it's important to take this a step further, which is that Chavas Das is implication is that the prohibition is because Baal Tosef. You could also contend, perhaps, that if you wanted to be machmir, let's say hypothetically, Keri'as Shma before the Zman of the Magen Avraham, then you shouldn't be able to say it again during davening. Because it should be Keri'as Shma v'Torah. It'd be moisif. So, in fact, you would have to make it tonight. I don't think you have to make it tonight explicit, but I think it's implicit that the tonight is if I'm being Yotzei Shema now, then what I say later on is Kekore B'Torah. If I'm Yotzei Shema later on, then what I'm doing now is Kekore B'Torah. But in Economy, you can't not be allowed to read Shema twice B'Torah Chiyuv, according to this, even if you were trying to make all this mine, right? It's a new shot. It's not the Pashim shot, it's not even the Rush shot. But it means you can't say Shema a second time. It's the concept of Shema Levatah. Okay, it's amazing, amazing finish. Weiter. Time is then nearly Ladun L'Schus. It's going down Kap Schus. Anybody who says, and Mamodas Makashas, most of which we don't say anymore, at least I don't say, but the one which you do say is Tfilas HaDerech. We say Baruch Atah Hashem. Or what do we have to say Baruch Atah Hashem? So part of at least a fragment of a bracha. There's many posts can hold that when you want to make Tfilas HaDerech, you should make Birchas Hanenin or Birchas Bracha Achroin, and it would be Masmich Tfilah the Tfilah, a bracha to bracha, because in that way the Tfilas HaDerech turns into a bracha. And the Baruch Atah Hashem Shemet Tefillah at the end is the appropriate chasima for a bracha smucha l'chaverta. But the Chavas Das is not saying that. Chavas Das is saying that this is like this tefillah is a tefillah nedava, and therefore it's okay if you say Shemaim and even Baruch Atah Hashem as long as you're not saying the Torah Chiyuv. Says let's see inside. The tafka der chobas da chazina and the arbe. But the briskers don't say the Shem Hashem in Tzvios because they're choshish for this. That you're not allowed. There's no heter to say the Shem Hashem unless it is in an enactment of Chazal. So some briskers, of course, most briskers probably don't sing at all, anything. And some briskers will sing without the Shem Shemayim. They use Hakel, Adokoi, or when I was learning Bris Chicago, which is a davening bris in Chicago, which is like a cross between risk and religious Zionism. So they say the Mishberach Yisrael, but they would not say change it. Mishberach Yisrael instead of Arei Elokeinu, and so on and so forth. They eliminate the Shem Shemayim from the tefillah because the perspective was that there's no head there for us to write tefillos which have the Shem Hashem in it. Now, according to the Sifas, no, of course you have a head there to write a tefillah that says Shem Hashem in it. As long as you say B'teres L'Dava, not B'teres Chayva. As long as there's no chiyuv to say Smiras, you can say you're going to have the Shem Hashem. Conversely, if you there's a chiyuv to say something, then even if you take out the Shem Hashem, you're not being matzah yourself. You're not saying yourself from this about this. Okay, tremendous chidushim. So he said, again, that repeated Mizmiras Nisyasin Nistaknu Belosh and Bracha, Ros Vados by Skor Shmo, Umarvesh Yesh Ben Baruch Hashem, Uben Baruch Ato Hashem. That's made of it. You say, Elokeinu Melech Haolam Neri Hashem Umalchus. That's different. But without the Malchus, you say whatever you want. V'chein Adim Ba'amen. The Mutter Lanos Amen Shlo Tzarech. You can say Amen on something, but even if it's not a bracha, but V'amen Chayv Aser V'amen Yisayma. Amen, which is a Chayv, is Aser in Amen Yisayma. B'cha mitzvahs. But that's only by mitzvahs which have to do with Amira. Evidently. Chometz is bad and stop because of a below bracha. So therefore, we're not doicha the isser because of suffix. So again, only by evidently by things where the mitzvah is bepeh is a concept to have concept about taisif apply bepeh in and of itself. If you're going to be chayv. By a Maisa, evidently, because of the nature of Maisa, so therefore it's not considered to be, even if you do it B'teres Chayv, it's not considered to be a problem of Baal Tosif, and I'm not sure why not. I really don't know. I guess because Maasecha, your Maisa, it's not Nikar if you're taking the lulav for the purpose of shaking it, for the purpose of moving it. So therefore, as long as you do B'shtika, there's no concept of Baal Tosif. But by Amira, what you're saying is be'etzem the thing which is the chiyuv. So therefore, unless you expressly have in mind as b'teres L'Dava, I guess, then it's considered to be b'teres Chayva, and therefore it is prohibited to do it again. So I'm going to skip again, just towards the end. Umehai time anicha, the last couple of lines. Havlo tiknu b'chol milim rabbanim shnei yomim chigon b'purim b'chanukah b'tanesim. V'cheilu of ein alita v'shmini mehai time. So this is again a very big chiddush, which is that the reason why we don't have 2 days Purim and 2 days Chanukah and 2 days Ol Tanesim is because of this isser of doing things of in a way which again I assume is Baal Tosif. If they go to the line before, he says by the reason why the Bichlawi added an extra day, you have to shade the Rabbanon. It's like Shechoshu Shem Liatsu Kukula, V'chayka Asi De Isa Daraisa Choshishu. V'chayka Lo Asi Isa Daraisa Lo Choshishu. In other words, where something might come this Daraisa, they don't make an additional chiyuv, so then Rabban Ruchayish to make another chiyuv. But where something is not, there's no such chashash, they didn't make a second chiyuv, and it's usher to make another chiyuv. Now allowed to add on again, because of this Baal Tosif even in the Rabbanot. We can go back to the lumbus of the Rambam. The one, and the Rabbanon becomes the Raisa, but there's a principle of subject Rabbanon L'chula. So therefore, Baal Tosif would be shy of all the Rabbanons. Perhaps that's the logic of the Chavas Das. But in any event, there would be this prohibition of adding on, and therefore they only made Yom Sheni by Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuos. Well, Shavuos is a big problem because Shavuos is not so important. But okay, at Rosh Hashanah, because they're afraid of if we lose the luach, we're going to come to the Mitzvah. But in cases of the Yom Tovim, the Rabbanon, Purim and Chanukah, etc., we don't add on. And again, to be honest with you, Chavas Das has not used the word Baal Tosef once. This is my understanding of the Baal Chavas Das. It's a mind-boggling Chavas Das. I wanted to share it with you because it is mind-boggling. And I'm happy to entertain in comments on the video, various places, my blog, Ha'aretz, and questions. And it used to be YouTube Live, which used to be Google Hangouts. You could do it in real time, but now it's much more difficult. But I'm happy to try and respond and accept any other svaras for understanding what the Nesiva/Chavas Das is saying. And we should be Zoicha to all use our snow days, L'Shem Shemayim, whenever possible, and continue our Talmud Torah in all situations. Ki hem chayinu v'rachamenu, v'vohem ne'egeh yom ha'layla.